much. Well, let's return, as promised, to those disputes, the India-China border dispute with the loss of so many lives on Monday. Let's talk to Hao Zhang from the BBC's Chinese service. And Howard, we were hearing that response from Narendra Modi a little earlier. What are the Chinese saying in response?
The Chinese, besides the conventional finger pointing back at India saying you crossed the line, you violated the agreement, the officials are actually fairly restrained and not saying that much. And not only that, most people have noticed, besides a few official statements, the Chinese domestic media have been largely quiet on this as well, except maybe the Global Times and a few official mouthpieces that did a few pieces of reports on the incident and repeated government statements. It's very much unlike on the India side, where the domestic media have basically opened up and it's becoming a major headline news. But in China, most of the news are quiet on the China-India front.
And do we know any more of the detail about how and why this actually flared up? Because it was so brutal when you actually read the details of these confrontations and how many of these people lost their lives. Do we know how it started?
At this very moment, we can only get some of the sense from both sides of the narration and their storylines. On the Indian side, the story was that after a agreement reached on the 6th of June, and by both sides, by the commanders of the regional armies, that they decided to disengage and start to withdraw, and somehow the Chinese soldiers started to reappear near the disputed line of actual control and even crossed it, and that led to the clash. On the China side, it's the same story, and they said, we agreed on something, but somehow a few days later, the Indian troops not only crossed the agreed lines and also attacked us. That's the Chinese claim. So at this very moment, unless we have a third-party person there who can actually independently verify these facts, it's difficult to say who crossed first. And at this moment, maybe both armies are reluctant to release some of the frontline footages for the world to see, in fear this may actually escalate things further. But at this very moment, that's what we know. And some of the more sort of graphic details leaked out earlier, and I think even FT and some of the UK newspapers have covered it a little bit. Basically, two groups of soldiers from both Indian and China side met on the ridge of one of the mountains near the disputed valley. And it's off that ridge, in the dark, fist fights and fighting with iron rods and very primitive weapons took place. And many death and injured soldiers. The cause of those injury and death are actually not by being hit, actually fallen off the ridge into the ravine down below. And that was apparently some of the latest, I guess, we can see. So as you said, it's a fairly brutal way of clashing, especially in the modern age.
Of course, so much tension over the last few days, hence those phone calls between the various foreign ministers. Hao Zhang, thanks for the latest on that story. Thanks for your time.